Life by Dr. Pat. Leading innovation in fertility excellence.
Deep dive into reproduction with Life by Dr. Pat.
Empower the understanding of your IVF cycle with KPI.
Okay, get ready, because today we're going deep into IVF.
Diving in.
Yeah, but specifically those KPIs that can help everyone listening really understand what's happening during treatment.
Yeah.
Lots of listeners want to really grasp those metrics that matter, right? Almost like we're decoding the secret language of a fertility journey, you know?
Yeah.
Thankfully, we have an expert here with us
Absolutely.
who's going to help us break it all down.
Absolutely.
Now, I know KPI sounds a little like corporate jargon, right?
Yeah.
Not something you'd really expect in a fertility clinic.
Right.
But think of them like guideposts, okay? Helping you and your doctor kind of see how things are moving along.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
So before we get into specifics, can you give us like a super quick overview of like the IVF process?
Of course. So it all starts with stimulating the ovaries to produce multiple eggs. Then those eggs are retrieved and then fertilized in the lab, and the resulting embryos are cultured and monitored before one or more are transferred back to the uterus.
Okay.
And each step has its own KPI, helping us assess how things are going and make adjustments as needed.
I actually found this visual guide in Thai
Okay.
called KPI,
Got it.
which maps out those steps really clearly.
Yeah.
It's really helpful to just see it visually laid out.
Visual aids are fantastic for understanding this journey.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into those KPIs.
Absolutely.
This resource lists a bunch,
Yeah.
starting with Antral Follicle Count, or AFC.
Yeah.
What is that actually measuring?
So AFC is one of the first things we look at. It's a simple ultrasound count of the tiny follicles in your ovaries at the beginning of your cycle.
Okay.
You can think of it as a snapshot of your ovarian reserve, so the pool of potential eggs that you have.
So a higher count generally means a better reserve.
Generally, yes.
But I'm guessing age plays a factor too.
Absolutely. Age is a significant factor. As women get older, the number of antral follicles naturally decreases.
Right.
But lifestyle, genetics, even previous medical treatments can impact that count as well.
Okay.
So it's not a perfect predictor,
Gotcha.
but it gives us a starting point.
Interesting. So it's less about hitting like some magic number and more about understanding like what your AFC means, right?
Exactly.
In the context of your personal health history.
Precisely. It's about personalized medicine, not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Okay, next up is how your follicles respond to that stimulation medication.
Right.
So we're not just counting follicles now, but we're looking at how they grow.
Exactly. We're tracking the percentage of follicles that grow to a mature size
Okay.
after you start taking the medication.
Okay.
It's all about seeing how well those follicles are nurtured and developing those precious eggs.
I remember reading an example in this Thai source
Okay.
where one patient had like a dominant follicle that was growing super fast.
Okay.
Almost like it was like hogging all the resources, you know?
Right.
Does that happen often?
It does happen, and it's a great illustration of why we don't just look at the raw numbers. Sometimes one follicle takes off, it kind of skews the overall picture.
Yeah.
That can be due to the timing of the medication, individual variations, even genetics.
Wow.
But that's why it's so important to have open communication with your doctor so they can explain these nuances to you.
So it's like those follicles are all on their own little race, and sometimes one just gets a head start.
Yeah, exactly.
But ultimately, we want to see like a good percentage reaching maturity. Right?
Exactly. We're
Yeah.
aiming for efficient, even development to maximize your chances of retrieving mature eggs.
Okay, so that brings us to egg retrieval.
Yes.
What KPI are we looking at here?
So this is where things get exciting. We track the percentage of mature eggs that are successfully retrieved during the procedure. We want to collect as many of those mature eggs as possible because those are the ones with the potential to be fertilized.
And it seems intuitive, right?
Yeah,
We want as many eggs as possible.
right.
Are there ever situations where, like, that's not the goal?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
While more eggs generally offer more options, it's not just about quantity.
Okay.
Quality matters too.
Right.
Sometimes fewer high-quality eggs are preferable to a large number of immature or lower-quality eggs.
Interesting.
It really depends on the individual situation.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
Even here, it's about looking beyond those numbers and considering that whole picture.
precisely. And that's where your doctor's expertise and personalized guidance come in. They will help you interpret that data and make the best decisions for your journey.
Okay, so we got those precious eggs retrieved.
Right.
What happens next?
So next we look at egg maturity. Not every egg that's retrieved is mature and ready for fertilization.
Ah, so we're looking at how many of those retrieved eggs are actually ready to go.
Exactly. This KPI tells us how many eggs are truly viable for fertilization. It's a crucial step because only mature eggs can be successfully fertilized and develop into healthy embryos.
Now, I know from the steps in IVF ICSI source that fertilization happens in the lab using a technique called ICSI, where a single sperm is injected directly into the egg.
Yes.
What KPI helps us understand how that process is going?
So we track the fertilization rate, which is the percentage of mature eggs that are successfully fertilized after ICSI.
Okay.
This KPI gives us insight into both the egg and sperm quality.
Okay, so if we're seeing like a good fertilization rate, that's a good sign for both partners, right?
Absolutely. It means the eggs are receptive to fertilization, and the sperm is capable of penetrating the egg's outer layer and delivering its genetic material.
Now, I remember reading about something called pronuclei in one of the sources.
Yes.
How does that relate to fertilization?
So these pronuclei are the visual confirmation that fertilization has occurred. They show us that the sperm and the egg's DNA have combined, confirming successful fertilization. It's like seeing the blueprint for a new human being start to form.
Wow, that is incredible. But I know that there's been cases, right,
Right.
where people have a lower fertilization rate, but they still had success.
That's right. A lower fertilization rate doesn't necessarily mean failure.
Okay.
While it might indicate challenges with egg or sperm quality, sometimes just one healthy embryo is all it takes. It all comes back to understanding the nuances of your individual case, and that's where open communication with your doctor is so vital.
Right. Even if like a particular KPI isn't ideal, it doesn't automatically mean like game over.
Exactly.
There might be other factors at play, and that's where, like you said, the doctor can really help.
Exactly. And remember, IVF technology is constantly evolving, so even if you face challenges in one cycle, there might be new options or adjustments we can explore in future cycles.
Okay, so we've got fertilized eggs, so now we're moving to that embryo development phase, right?
Yeah.
What KPI helps us, understand how those embryos are progressing.
So we track the percentage of fertilized eggs that develop into blastocysts.
Okay.
A blastocyst is a more advanced stage of embryo development with a higher chance of implantation.
So a good blastocyst development rate, like that means those embryos are strong and healthy,
Precisely.
ready to potentially implant.
It tells us that those embryos have the potential to make it to the next stage.
What factors can affect blastocyst development?
Sure.
Is it all about like that initial egg and sperm quality, or are there other things at play?
So egg and sperm quality are definitely foundational,
Okay.
but the lab environment plays a crucial role too. Temperature, humidity, and even the air quality are carefully controlled to create the optimal conditions for those embryos to thrive.
Right.
Think of it like creating a tiny, perfect world for them to grow.
It's amazing how much goes into creating that like ideal environment,
Yeah.
It really highlights that delicate balance of science and nature and IVF.
It truly is a delicate dance.
Yeah.
And the expertise of the embryologist is crucial in ensuring those embryos are handled with the utmost care and precision.
Well, I'm really starting to see how all these KPIs are like puzzle pieces.
Yes.
Each one giving us, a little bit more information about the overall picture.
You got it. It's about connecting those dots and understanding the story they tell about your individual journey.
Okay, we've covered a lot already, but we're not done yet. Let's take a quick pause, and we'll be right back to explore that next stage of IVF
Sounds good.
and those KPIs that guide us there. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into IVF KPIs.
Yes, we've explored those KPIs that kind of guide us from ovarian stimulation all the way to embryo development.
Right.
But we still have a really crucial step to cover,
We do.
embryo transfer.
Absolutely. This is where we take one or more of those carefully nurtured blastocysts
Okay.
and transfer them back into the uterus, hoping that they will implant
Right.
and lead to a pregnancy.
I can imagine this step comes with like a whole new set of anxieties and hopes.
It does.
Are there KPIs here that can like give us insight?
Absolutely. We look at factors like embryo quality and uterine lining thickness to assess the likelihood of implantation.
So it's all about making sure that both the embryo and the environment are ready, right?
Yes.
Like a perfectly timed meeting of the two.
That's a great analogy. It's about synchronicity, ensuring that everything is aligned for optimal implantation.
Let's talk about embryo quality first.
Right.
I remember reading about embryo grading
Right.
in one of the sources.
Right.
How does that work?
So we use a grading system to assess the appearance and development of the embryos. Higher graded embryos generally have a better chance of implantation.
Okay.
It's like a quality check to select the embryos with the highest potential.
Okay, so it's like choosing the strongest contenders for the implantation race. But I know from the Dysmorphic Uterus 101 source that the uterus itself plays like a really critical role too, right?
You're absolutely right. The uterine lining, or endometrium, needs to be receptive for the embryo to implant and thrive. We use ultrasound to measure the thickness and appearance of the lining, making sure that it's thick enough and has the right characteristics to support a pregnancy.
So a thicker lining is a good sign.
Generally, yeah.
It seems like it would offer, more cushioning and support for that embryo.
A thicker lining generally indicates better blood flow and more nutrients, creating a welcoming environment for the embryo. It's like preparing a cozy nest for that little embryo to settle into.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's amazing how everything has to work together so perfectly.
It is.
Are there any other KPIs related to like the embryo transfer itself?
Yes, the technique used for the transfer can also influence success rates. We aim for a smooth, gentle transfer, placing the embryos in the optimal spot within the uterus. Some clinics even use ultrasound guidance during the transfer to ensure precise placement.
It sounds like a really delicate procedure requiring a lot of skill and expertise.
Absolutely. And the experience of the doctor performing the transfer is crucial. They're not just transferring embryos, they're handling the hopes and dreams of those hoping to become parents.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not just a medical procedure. It's a moment filled with, emotion,
Yeah.
anticipation.
Lots of it.
After the transfer, we enter the dreaded 2-week wait.
Yes, we do.
Is there any KPI that can tell us, like, if implantation has occurred?
Unfortunately, there's no KPI that directly measures implantation. We have to rely on the pregnancy test a couple of weeks later to confirm if an embryo has successfully implanted. But even without a specific KPI, we can gather clues along the way.
What kind of clues? Like, what should someone be looking out for during that 2-week wait?
It's important to listen to your body. Some women experience mild cramping or spotting around the time of implantation, but others have no symptoms at all. The key is to manage expectations and avoid reading too much into every twinge or sensation. That 2-week wait can be emotionally challenging, and it's crucial to prioritize self-care and emotional well-being during this time.
We've talked a lot about like the individual KPIs, but I remember reading that these numbers can sometimes feel, really overwhelming.
They can.
How can we use these KPIs to like empower ourselves
Right.
without getting like totally lost in the data?
That's a great point. These KPIs are meant to be tools for understanding, not weapons of self-criticism. It's about seeing the bigger picture and understanding the trends and patterns they reveal.
So it's not about like fixating on a single number,
Right.
but it's more about seeing that overall story that those numbers tell.
Exactly. And that's where open communication with your doctor is so important. They can help you interpret the data, explain the nuances of your case, and answer any questions you might have. It's about working together as a team to make informed decisions and navigate this journey with confidence.
I remember this anecdote from the Thai source about a patient
Yeah.
who had 18 large follicles
Oh.
before egg retrieval,
Yeah.
but only retrieved 5 eggs.
Okay.
And it was obviously like super disappointing for her.
Right.
But those KPIs actually helped her doctor like uncover a potential issue
Okay.
with her response to the trigger shot, the medication that triggers ovulation.
That's a perfect example of how KPIs can be incredibly valuable, even when they reveal challenges. They can pinpoint areas for improvement and lead to adjustments in future cycles. It's about using data to personalize your treatment plan and maximize your chances of success.
It seems like these KPIs aren't just about like tracking progress,
Right.
but they're also about improving that IVF process itself, right?
Right.
Like learning from each cycle,
Right.
refining techniques to better support patients.
You're absolutely right. These KPIs are driving innovation and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in reproductive medicine.
We've talked a lot about like the specific KPIs related to IVF,
Yeah.
but I'm curious about how they connect to like other aspects of fertility.
Sure.
For example, I was reading about the impact of uterine abnormalities,
Right.
like a T-shaped uterus on IVF outcomes.
Yeah.
How do those factors come into play?
That's a great question. IVF doesn't happen in isolation. It's part of a much larger picture of your overall reproductive health. Factors like age, lifestyle, medical history, and even anatomical variations can influence your IVF journey.
So it's like another layer of the puzzle, right? Adding like
Yes.
complexity, nuance to interpreting those KPIs.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to have a comprehensive evaluation looking at all aspects of your fertility, not just the IVF procedure itself.
In the case of like a T-shaped uterus,
Right.
I read that a procedure called a hysteroscopic metroplasty can be done to kind of correct the abnormality
Yes.
and improve chances of successful implantation. Is that something that you like often recommend?
It depends on the individual case, of course. But addressing underlying anatomical issues can definitely improve IVF outcomes. It's about optimizing every aspect of the journey to give you the best possible chance of success.
It's amazing how medicine is constantly advancing, you know,
It is.
offering like new solutions and possibilities
Yeah.
for those facing, fertility challenges.
It truly is inspiring. And the more we understand about the intricacies of fertility, the better equipped we are to support individuals and couples on their path to parenthood.
Okay, we've explored, all these KPIs that guide us through that IVF process,
Yeah.
from ovarian stimulation all the way to embryo transfer.
Right.
But I know there's still so much more to discuss.
Yeah, we do.
We've touched on like the emotional aspects of this journey,
Absolutely.
the importance of self-care
Yes.
and the power of, that open communication with your doctor.
Those are essential elements of this journey, and we'll delve deeper into them in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We spent this whole episode exploring IVF KPIs, those data points that can really help you understand, the science behind your fertility journey.
Yeah, we've covered a lot, from antral follicle counts to embryo grading.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up, I think it's important to remember that these KPIs, while valuable, they don't tell the whole story.
Right. They're like pieces of the puzzle, but they don't really capture that emotional roller coaster, right?
Right.
The hopes, the fears that come with this experience.
Exactly. Fertility is deeply personal. And while we can analyze the data, we can't quantify the resilience and strength it takes to go through IVF.
It strikes me that, knowledge is power,
Yes.
but it's not the only power. You need emotional resilience too.
Absolutely.
What advice do you have for people navigating those ups and downs?
It's crucial to build a support system, whether that's your partner, friends, family, or a therapist. Sharing your feelings, anxieties, and even your small victories can make a world of difference.
And are there resources specifically for people going through IVF?
Absolutely. Many clinics offer support groups where you can connect with others who truly understand what you're going through. There are also online communities and forums that can provide a sense of connection and shared experience.
It makes sense sometimes just knowing you're not alone can be,
Yeah.
the biggest comfort. I remember reading that this whole journey can really impact relationships too.
It can.
Any advice for couples going through IVF together?
Open and honest communication is key.
Okay.
It's important to check in with each other regularly, acknowledge each other's feelings, and make decisions as a team.
Right.
IVF can be stressful, so finding healthy coping mechanisms together, whether that's exercise, meditation, or simply spending quality time together, can help strengthen your bond.
It's like you're both on this expedition together,
Exactly.
facing the challenges and celebrating the wins as a unit.
Precisely. And remember, seeking professional guidance, whether from a therapist or a counselor specializing in fertility, can provide valuable tools for navigating the emotional complexities of IVF as a couple.
So as we kind of wrap up here, I'm wondering, what's on the horizon for IVF? Are there new technologies or advancements that give you, hope for the future?
Oh, it's an exciting time. Research is constantly evolving, leading to more personalized treatment protocols, improved lab techniques, and even non-invasive ways to assess embryo viability.
It's amazing how science is, finding ways to improve the process and increase those chances of success.
Yes.
But amidst all the advancements, I think, your earlier point about the human element really resonated with me.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the data and the technology, but ultimately IVF is about people, about families, about that deep-seated desire to create life.
And that desire, that hope, it transcends, all the numbers.
Beautifully put. I encourage everyone listening to hold on to that hope, to be kind to themselves, and to remember that they are not alone on this journey.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights with us today. It's been truly enlightening.
It's been my pleasure, and to our listeners, I wish you all the best on your fertility journey.
That's it for our deep dive into IVF, KPIs, and the human journey that they represent. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Leading. Innovation. Fertility. Excellence. Life by Dr. Pat. Leading innovation in fertility excellence.